All right, welcome all to the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting on October 28th, 2024. We will start with Section 1, call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Ms. Witt?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Lotus?
Here.
Mr. Madler?
Here.
Ms. Fisher?
Here. And I'll make the motion to excuse the absence of Ms. Woods tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion by Ms. Fisher and a second by Mr. Bailey to excuse the absence of Ms. Wood. Could we get a roll call vote?
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to note the open meetings law that is posted at the entrance to the room. We will move on now to Section 2, Communications. Item A, the Military Advisor, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Anderson. Welcome. Come on up.
Welcome, Colonel.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. As a parent of a Patriot Elementary School kid, I'm very excited to be here tonight representing Colonel Kolesiak and Offutt Air Force Base. A few things I wanted to update you guys on. First, we'll be hosting a Know Before You Go MIG-3 seminar. It's a school transition made easy. It is for active duty parents. However, it is open to anyone who wants to learn more about the MIG-3 program and what goes into that interstate compact. I've got a flyer for it. I'm going to leave it by the front door so you guys can grab one on the way out, or any of our families if they see it also. Last week, we hosted our Halloween extravaganza. A little over 1,100 kids came out to our youth center. Really great night for us, building community partnerships, working with a lot of our downtown partners to go through and connect them with some resources, and also just a good family readiness initiative to just bring people together on a unseasonably warm fall night. If you've seen the news, we're doing a combat readiness exercise right now as we prepare for that great power competition or pacing challenges overseas. We are doing our part at Offutt to go through and prepare. The good news is we've got great school liaisons and great child care facilities to go through and support our youth. No impact at all to any of them, and still be able to provide our mission as needed. Last time Colonel Kolesiak was here, he had a couple questions from y'all. One was, where do you get the information for the state, where do you get the information from for the status of education? The information comes from parents, school officials, and other school liaisons within the state. We work with the Air Guard, Army Guard, as Offutt is the only active duty location in Nebraska. When they contact the state lead for support and guidance, when military students have issues or concerns. The MIG-3 Commission for the state also provides information should parents contact them directly. Concerns and issues are tracked by the school liaisons, and it's important to note the MIG-3 commissioners contact information as well as the MIG-3 state leads contact information, which is on the state website. And who does it get reported to? The report goes to all the state leads for MIG-3, all states, all closed locations to include the DODEA schools. It's a joint effort as this represents all branches. Each state is either represented by the Air Force, Army, Navy, or Marines. Information gets compiled at a higher level and reported up. Information is also used to help drive changes in the MIG-3 compact if needed. The annual business meeting for MIG-3 is attended by all state leads, state commissioners for each state, and the education continues to be a top 5 DAF quality of life concern for families as a PCS. It helps drive readiness, retention, recruitment, and future of the force. So MIG-3, it's a good program for parents, students, and school districts. It really protects the students to allow them to have the best transition possible. There's some stuff that the state of Texas says that Nebraska does not need, some things Nebraska says that Washington needs. And what this does, it helps go through and translate those different curriculums to help best the student. But it's not just for the students, also for the school districts to ensure the school districts aren't put in a position that, hey, we're teaching somebody they don't need to be taught, or they're going through and adding on additional curriculum that is really just irrelevant to what that student's already learned. Overall, a really great program. I highly encourage, if you have time, on November 5th, it's from 6 to 7 p.m. Just dial in, listen to it. I've learned a lot about it in my role, and I think it'd be really beneficial for all of you. Pending any questions from the board, this is all I have for my briefing tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments?
That's great. No, but thank you.
It's always great hearing from our parents, Colonel, and just for the board's benefit, as the Colonel and I were walking up into the board meeting this evening, in addition to self-disclosing as a PLCS parent, had indicated that it's his priority to see the number of Purple Star designated schools be increased, which is also a district priority. For our people that are listening at home, we currently have 2 of our schools that are designated as Purple Star designated. We would love to have all 21 eventually, and I know that's a passion of yours, Colonel, so thank you for your support, and we look forward to working with you on that.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for the
Thank
update.
you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item B. We have no public comment for items not on the agenda, so we'll move straight to item C, the superintendent's report. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madler, members of the board. Happy Monday, everyone. It doesn't seem possible that here we are, well into second quarter already. Hopefully, everybody had a wonderful fall break. It's a great opportunity for our staff to catch their breath a little, get caught up on some professional development, and hopefully our families and students were able to enjoy themselves with the unseasonably warm weather. A few shout outs as we begin the superintendent's report. First off, I want to thank Dr. Villarreal, as well as Dr. Anderson and Gretchen Kolkowski, who works in our CIA team, who put together a family engagement event a little over 2 weeks ago. It's one of the first types of events of this type that we've done. We had no idea what to expect. It was scheduled here in our central office right after school. Very often we invite parents in because of work schedules. Everybody's so busy. We'll get a handful. Well, we had over 100 show up, and it was absolutely incredible to see moms, dads, caregivers, children working alongside our staff to look at different learning opportunities. So needless to say, we'll be doing a follow-up event. In fact, we have another event scheduled for mid-November on digital mental health. So more details to come. In fact, I believe there'll be an email blast going out shortly if it hasn't gone out yet. One of our goals this year is to really start to reach out and engage our parents and community members in ways we haven't done in the past. So just want to thank everybody involved that made that happen. Also wanted to share with our board and community, we hosted our second student advisory event of the school year. Most of you, if you are regular viewers of board meetings, know that we have a number of advisories that we work with: teacher advisory, classified staff advisory. We work with parent PTO groups on a very regular basis. The one we meet with most regularly is our student group. 16 students total, 8 Monarchs, 8 Titans, and we rotate between the 2 campuses and meet over lunch. The second meeting of the year, we had a great conversation about how to better market our academy programs to our high school students. It is one of the programs we are most proud of as a school district, one of the things that truly sets us apart. And the second half of the lunch, we shifted our conversation to school safety. We had originally scheduled to have a pretty comprehensive conversation around school safety coming off of the tragedy at Omaha Northwest. But we had a couple of our student services people that really wanted to be there and join in the conversation. They weren't able, so we'll continue that conversation next month. As you might imagine, school safety is top of mind for both our students and our staff. Also wanted to thank the Nebraska Department of Education that reached out to Ms. Siri and I would like to partner with us on a potential literacy grant. If you've been following the news, the state of Nebraska was recently awarded almost $56 million in federal funds, basically to make better readers in the state of Nebraska. As the 4th largest school district in Nebraska, we hope to be a beneficiary of some of these sub-grants. So Ms. Siri and I talked with Commissioner Maher and his team about how that may work in the Papillion La Vista Community Schools. Grateful to be in consideration. Ms. Siri has also been working very hard with her team on the Learning Community Coordinating Council grant. The district found out we qualified for $400,000, just under $400,000 a year for the next 5 years, total grant award of about $2 million. So we're looking at ways likewise where we can boost literacy for some of our most vulnerable families. So very exciting stuff. A lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, but very exciting stuff. Also wanted to do a shout out for our Health Systems Academy and our foundation. Had the opportunity last week to visit with executives from Google who are there on site at the Health Systems Academy at CHI Midlands. If you haven't seen this piece of hardware, it was highlighted in the news recently. It's basically an anatomy table. And it's pretty amazing stuff. It's basically a human cadaver that has been digitally sliced an infinite number of times so that kids can interact and understand human anatomy better without obviously interacting with a human cadaver, which some might find off-putting. So they're getting experiences that most kids wouldn't receive until well into their undergraduate program, in some cases in graduate school or medical school. And because of technology, we have that available to our kids at both the patient care as well as the biomed side. So just think about the incredible opportunities our kids have, not only to be on site, working alongside nurses and doctors, but have that type of technology available. It's pretty mind-blowing. Things I just would have only dreamt of having access to when I was a kid growing up in high school. So special thanks to the foundation, special thanks to Ms. Siri for your leadership, as well as Google that supported the grant that purchased the table. Also, we're wrapping up outdoor ed. In fact, I think the very last school, I think Walnut Creek is out there as we speak, soaking up the last bit of nice weather. Shireen and I were out there last week, not only to say hello to the kids that were going through the different courses, but the mother of outdoor ed, of course I'm talking about Ms. Ann Danner, who has been doing this, ladies and gentlemen, since 1976. That is not a typo. Ann Danner has been going to outdoor ed through the various iterations, the various camps, for the better part of 50 years. I mean, Ann is just a trooper. So we go out there to surprise her, and true to form, rather than sitting back at the cabin, doing administrative work, doing, all the work that goes on behind the scenes to make outdoor ed successful, she's out on the trails. And Ms. Danner is approaching, I think she might even be north of 80 years old. And frankly, a lot of our kids and staff have trouble keeping up with her because not only is she in exceptional physical condition, Ann's just passionate. And if you've sent a sixth grader to outdoor ed, you've heard the stories. The lady, the myth that is Ann Danner. So really excited to see Ann. Sorry to see her send off into retirement, but just an absolutely remarkable career. And last, just wanted to share with the board and community, we are meeting with Governor Pillen and his staff for a second time. I think Ms. Siri shared with you at the last board meeting that we met with the governor's staff about a week and a half ago in Lincoln to talk about school finance and some recommendations we had. As promised, when we left that meeting, we offered some suggestions, and the governor said we would like to take these under advisement and meet with you again. And we will have an opportunity to do that a week from today, next Monday. So as I've said before, one of the things that I'm really, really gratified with Governor Pillen is he is not afraid to meet with practitioners. And it hasn't always been that way with the state of Nebraska. Sometimes we've had a mixed bag of success in meeting with the governor. Whether you agree with his policies or not isn't really the point. The point is he's willing to sit down with school leaders and talk about things that are important to them. And in my opinion, that's a real admirable thing. So more details to come after we meet with Governor Pillen and his staff. And with that, Mr. Madler, I would wrap up my superintendent comments.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rickley. Moving on to board reports.
All right, well, I had quite a week last week. Sorry I had to miss the last board meeting, but last week on the 21st, I was very honored. The Region 2 Principals Student Leadership Conference, they hold every year. Mr. Hively and Ms. Lowndes asked me to be the keynote speaker for that, so I got to speak to about, I think they said 174, I think was the number that Seth told me, 4th, 5th, 6th, and I think even a few 7th graders, talk about leadership, kind of go through what I've done in my career and my leadership roles, and then talk to them about that. I was very honored, and it was a blast. It's amazing, the energy in that room, and that Seth sent me a whole bunch of pictures, not just very few of me, fortunately, I don't need to see those, but of all the other things they did throughout the day, and the program that they set up for those kids is amazing, all the different things, the different stations and rooms that they do. They do it at UNO during UNO's fall break, so they essentially get full use of what's called the Milo Bale Student Center if you've never been to UNO. And so they have different rooms and have different people come in and do things with them. And like I said, I was very honored, very fantastic program. So, and I don't think I said this, but they're from all over the school districts in the metro area and a little beyond. So I had kids, gosh, from all over the place there. So it wasn't just Papillion kids, it was everywhere. So that was last Monday, and then last Tuesday I did liaison lunch and went to Monarchs. And first time in my 4 years that I've ever been to one of the high schools for liaison lunch, so that was rather interesting. Had some good conversation. Jason did a good job walking us around. I got to see the media studio that they've got, and they're putting it together. It's amazing. So it's fantastic. Meta, I think, is that who was made that grant? And it's incredible. And we saw it kind of just a quick tour before lunch, and then we got to go back after the lunch and see the kids in there putting things together, and the green screens, and what do they call the screen that it wasn't the cheat screen, I forget what they called it. So you're looking on the side, yeah. But that screen on the side and all the lights, the professional lights, and then all the different camera boards and sound boards and everything, it's amazing. So if you get a chance, go, if you haven't already, I don't know if anybody's been over there, but go take a look at that. It was pretty incredible. So, and it was real nice talking to for lunch. We had a really good lunch. It's very interesting to me for 4 years of liaison lunches, going to a lot of elementary schools and middle schools, to hear the difference in what the high school has to say, what their folks have to say. The behavior is still there, behavior issues that we talk about, but you see it in a very different light. They talked quite a bit about student tardiness, especially at the beginning of the day. And it's one of the things they brought up, that we're not talking 5-10 minutes late, we're talking students that are showing up 30 minutes late to the beginning of the day. And the apathy, unfortunately, that they see from these students that do that. And it's not a large number, it never is, but talked to quite a bit about that. I was impressed because immediately, as the college professor, my mind goes back to, fail them, but you don't want to do that. And these guys do a really good job of positive reinforcement, where they, try to give them small rewards or pats on the back when they do show up on time, instead of, trying to, fail them or do something like that. They talked about how they also, contact parents. So they try to hit it from a multiple number of different ways, talking to the students, trying to reward them if they do what they're supposed to, talking to their parents, trying to make sure that they get that done. And it was interesting to me to think, with my wife being a third grade teacher, most of the reason for students' tardiness is a parent that's having a rough morning and can't get the kid there or something, or has work or something like that. Whereas in high school, you're essentially the parent that, hoping the kid has enough responsibility to get up and get to school on his or her own. And so it was interesting for me to see that. So I enjoyed that. That was one of the biggest things that we talked about quite a bit. Jason did a good job of kind of giving us a group of some newer teachers in the building and some that have been there forever, so you kind of get an idea of the way they think and the differences that they see and everything. One of the big things that I thought was amazing was, and I don't think I wrote it down, but they're starting a new counseling model. And what do you call it, the alpha? I think it was the alpha model, I think is what they said, where instead of having freshman counselors, sophomore counselors, junior and senior, where kids switches every year, they put somebody and they start them based on their last name. And so they stay with them for all 4 years. And then they also may have, if they've got a younger brother or sister or something, they'll have them as well. So it sounds like a really good model, instead of switching kids around. And they said it helps quite a bit, because then the kid knows who their counselor is. It's not just, I need to see a counselor. They're not sure who it is. They know this counselor, and for 4 years that counselor can watch them grow and help them. So I think it was a really good idea that they had. So all in all, very good liaison lunch, so I enjoyed it. So thank you. I think I'll shut up now.
No, the only thing I had was the unique academic experience this weekend of reliving having an infant in the home. My freshman daughter had her rotation with our what I'll call lifelike digital infants, and yes, a little bit. It's a whole lot different than the egg babies that were used back in my time. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience for all involved, including our dog, who didn't know what to do with the thing when it cried or cooed and did it. So it did all of those things, and it was a 2-day period that I don't think my daughter will soon forget. I was proud of her. She was very attentive, got 100% after it got plugged in today and got the data read. But it's just pretty amazing, our investment in that technology, and what an eye-opening experience from a curriculum perspective. The responsibility, how much effort it took. I mean, she was very exhausted and was like, I don't even have time to take a shower. Welcome to our world. So, but just pretty amazing, the technology that's involved in that process. So I was very pleased, but very happy to see it go back to school today.
It didn't make you want to have another?
No,
No, okay.
good.
Okay. On my side, we had trunk or treat at Terra Heights on Friday night. Great turnout, perfect weather, like it's been this fall. It was great to show off. It was some in the building, in the gym, and they, revamped the gym. We didn't go into the new parts of the building, but the new playground and the parking lot, it was just a lot better configuration for an event like this, and having a lot of the school turn out for it. So thank you to the PTO that set that up, and for the staff, and for Mr. Fritzen that put that together. The boys had a great time there. And I also had a liaison lunch this time at Rumsey the other week. A couple big topics. One, that we continue to hear at the elementary level how excited they are for the new curriculum. I think this is the third elementary school I've been to in the last six months or so, and they all say the same thing. And they talk about how much more engaging it is for the students, and how much more they are wanting to consume the information just with how it's being laid out, which, again, great to hear if you can get the kids engaged and excited and wanting to learn. I mean, that's probably a lot of the battle. So it's great to hear that. And we did talk through the behavior. We had the behavior conversation. We talked through the presentation that we just had here maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And then, just ideas that we went around the table and talked through ideas that everyone had. Where would they put investments if they had resources to help tackle the problem, and just got a list of those ideas. Again, like we've had at other schools that we've gone to, you talk to 5-7 people, they all have a different area that they would invest in. Again, it's great conversation and helping us. But then we also talked about potential options on how to give parents more information, like tips and tricks of how to deal with some of the issues that these students and kids aren't just having at school, but also probably at home, and how we can help the parents at home as well. And Dr. Villarreal, I know, has some ideas around that and potential options that the district will be hearing more about in the future. Overall, I appreciated the staff that was there being willing to have an open conversation about it, and just coming ready to share their thoughts and ideas and feelings with how the school year is going. So thank you to Rumsey for the conversation. Okay. Any other board reports?
I don't really have a board report, but I was talking to my granddaughter this weekend, and she's so excited in high school to be joining the fishing club. Fishing club, yes, because she loves the fish, and I said I didn't know there was such a club. She said yes, and there's quite a few of us there. Not many girls, but there's some. So she was very, very excited. She caught a very large redfish this weekend and was pretty excited about it. But just another difference in, locale and where you are, and what might be something that they do that's different than what we do. So a fishing club.
Okay, moving on to item E, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
We have not met since our last meeting. We do have a meeting scheduled for this Friday at 8 a.m., and we do have the Papillion Middle School bond project and the resolution authorization of the general obligation school bonds on the agenda for this evening.
Human resources and student services.
Our next meeting is this Wednesday.
Okay, and curriculum and Americanism.
We've not met since the last meeting, but we do have a meeting scheduled for November 12th.
Thank you. Moving on to section 3, action items. Item A, action by consent.
I'll make a motion to approve the action by consent as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have the motion by Ms. Fisher and a second by Mr. Bailey. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, Papillion Middle School 2023 bond project. Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Madler. Good evening, everybody. A month ago, BCDM was over here and kind of went through the Papillion Middle School project with you in 3D mode and answered any questions about that project. We do have from Sampson Construction tonight the guaranteed maximum price for Papillion Middle School. The total for direct and indirect costs is $8,871,412. The project is scheduled to begin this summer and could take 3 summers in this one. It's a pretty big project. We don't have a lot of leeway to do any of the work during the school year without significant disruption. So they're going to do their best to try to get this thing done in 2 summers, but 50-50, we could end up in a 3rd summer on this one, just to be transparent here. The admin and architect team agree that this is within our budget range for the project and would recommend the board approve the GMP and resolution as presented.
And Mr. Richards, I just want to make sure, on the recommendation, it has motion to approve the construction of the Vista Middle School renovation, right? That should be Papillion Middle.
Oh.
That's Papillion.
Okay,
Correct.
sorry about
Yeah.
that. We can change that in the motion then?
But the dollar amount matches up to the up
Yes.
top, okay.
I'll make the motion to, one, approve the construction of the Papillion Middle School renovation and addition project as presented with the guaranteed maximum price from Sampson Construction of $8,871,412. And 2, to delegate authority to and authorize the superintendent of schools or assistant superintendent of business services for the school district to sign, execute, and deliver such construction contracts, sign and approve any change orders, pay the contract price and expenses related to the construction projects, and take all other action necessary to complete any requirements or obligations under the construction projects and contracts.
Just to be clear, you did say Papillion when you read it here, so.
I sure did.
Vista Middle School, so I just
Correct.
want to make sure. Okay. I second that, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have the motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Mr. Bailey. Any discussion?
I just thought of one question I wanted to ask. If this gets extended out to a 3rd summer, that's quite a bit of time between this pricing and that time frame. Would we anticipate that we could see some potential drastic changes in the price, or do we feel fairly comfortable?
We feel fairly comfortable on this. They've said during the meeting that a 3rd summer would not increase the guaranteed maximum price of this, and hopefully if we can get it done in 2, it'll actually decrease.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so we got the motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Mr. Fisher. Roll call.
Excuse me, that was second by Mr. Bailey.
Oh, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Bailey, sorry. Yep.
Mr. Madler.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes,
Ms. Witt?
Yes,
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, resolution to authorize the issuance of general obligation school building bond series 2024. Mr. Richards.
Yes, thank you. Cody Wickham of D.A. Davidson, he was at our last meeting and kind of explained the process for these new funds and talked a little bit about how this fits into our future tax rate. Tonight, the admin is asking the board for, our 2nd installment of funds from the May of 2023 successful bond election. Last year, a little earlier than this time, we got $25 million out to get projects started and underway. We are in need of some more cash at this point. As you can imagine, we picked up a lot more projects starting this fall and into next spring. So if we get this $40 million, we'll have 25 from prior installment. That'll put us about half of the money. And I would say by mid to late summer, we'll probably be through that half of our projects. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. Dr. Rickley and I did talk about having Pat Carson for BCDM come brief the board and the community about the projects here in late November meeting, I think we talked about doing. So that'll be a good time to catch up on how everything's going and where they're at within each project. So we're talking about rates under 4% at this point too. From last year, we were right at 5%, I believe. if I remember correctly, and this year we're just under 4 with what he's expecting to get from the rates once we move forward with this. So we would recommend the resolution and the proceedings as they're presented in the packet tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution in an amount not to exceed $40 million even of general obligation school building bonds to facilitate the beginning schedule for the 2023 bond projects as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion, questions?
No, I'm just very pleased, obviously, with Cody and Brett's work on, finding the right timing. Obviously, with interest rates have been in flux, over the last few years, obviously on the decline at this point. So I just think the, proactive timing, is going to secure the, hopefully a very favorable rate for our taxpayers. So really appreciate that due diligence and the analysis that has to go into kind of timing that bond market. So appreciate it.
Okay, roll call.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on to item D, Superintendent 2024-25 Performance Goals. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madler, members of the board. This isn't the first time in this current school year we've talked about my goals. Just as a refresher to our community and perhaps individuals that may be watching at home, by law, the board must evaluate the superintendent in the first year of his or her employment twice, every subsequent year thereafter once. As a matter of practice, this board evaluates me, has at least 2 formal board conversations, oftentimes more. So they're going above and beyond what the board is legally obligated to do. Typically, the way the timeline works is when the board meets for its summer retreat, we usually have at least 1 retreat per year, open to the public. Typically, that happens in July, August. This year, for a variety of reasons, we had to push the retreat back a little bit, which is why I'm a little bit slow in bringing the goals back to the board. Traditionally, we'll have my goals approved by August, September, so that we have that full school year to kind of evaluate my progress, hopefully, towards those goals. So that's the reason why we're a little bit slower in getting the goals out. Typically, what happens then once the goals have been formally adopted, we circle back at the midway point in the year, typically around December, and talk about progress made. And then we circle back again at the end of the year, typically May and June, and provide kind of a here's where we're at now that the school year is fast approaching its end. So just to restate, nothing has changed since the last time we talked about this, talked about the goals last time, but just for the community at home that may not have the packet in front of them, 5 goals that the board and I have discussed. 1, restarting the district strategic planning process. We've had some incredible gains in the last 12 years through our strategic planning process. Now's the time to restart that process. Typically, we do this in 5-6-year increments, so really excited about that. Goal number 2 is develop communication and engagement strategies for district staff and residents. Talked briefly about some engagement strategies that we've already utilized with our parents, with our community, with our staff. I'm very proud of that. Goal number 3, implement enhanced curriculum instruction and technology priorities. That is the reason why we exist, ladies and gentlemen. At our core, we are a teaching and learning organization, so you'll see a number of sub-points underneath that goal related to student learning and what we're going to do to increase the outcomes for success. Goal number 4, expand district staff recruitment, retention, and succession planning strategies. Dr. Settles and her team have done some remarkable things in attracting and retaining staff. We're faring far better than most school districts across the country. This is a place where people want to come to work. This is not a stepping stone largely for our staff, and we want to continue to make this place a destination, and the HR team has done a remarkable job doing that. And finally, goal number 5, implement plan for bond facility and safety projects. Mr. Richards just got done telling you about a plan for Papillion Middle School, as well as how we're going to finance the remaining projects. We've been very aggressive in getting these bond projects up and running. We're past the halfway point. I mean, it's pretty amazing how quickly Mr. Richards and his team have worked their way through this project list. I don't want to jinx it by saying it out loud, but typically it takes us 5 to 6 years to wrap up bond projects. We're on path to probably meet that, maybe even beat it. I don't want to put any undue pressure, but we've made some really great progress, not only with the bond projects, but some of the safety projects that were outside the scope of the bond. So really exciting goals, things that will move the district forward, and would gladly accept any questions that the board has about those goals.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rickley. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the superintendent's 2024-25 performance goals as presented.
Second?
We have the motion by Ms. Witt and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion, questions? The only comment for me is, thanks for going through this. Yeah, like you said, we had to push our retreat back to the beginning of September, but we spent a lot of time diving into this at the retreat and taking some of the feedback that we had in that meeting and incorporating it into the bullet points. I added up, I think there's 52 bullet points throughout those five breakouts there. So it's detailed and there's a lot of work to do in it, but I'm confident that you and your team will start going through those, and many of them obviously you've already started, but we'll see significant progress in those areas, which will only help this district and community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madler.
Any other comments? No? Okay, so we got the motion by Ms. Witt and the second by Ms. Fisher. Roll call.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, moving on to section 4, discussion information items. Item A, new staff mentoring. Dr. Settles.
Yes, I'm going to invite Rachel Stevenson up, but as she's coming up, just a reminder of Rachel's role in the district. So she is our cadre administrator, which means she spends some of her time at UNO, some of it here in our school district, and primarily is supporting new staff in that role. Rachel is especially skilled in coaching and mentoring, working with new teachers, their mentors, and our principals as well. She's just a wealth of resources. I think that's probably the very best way to sum up what you get when you think of Rachel, which is fantastic. But she is going to share with you some of the ways that we have ramped up mentoring for our new teachers, and I think you'll love what you hear. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. This is my 16th year in this district, so the wealth of information is really just things that everyone here has taught me. And I just keep passing on to future generations. So mentoring is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I value personally. I've had some really remarkable mentors in the district, and that's one of the reasons that I continue to come back each year. I have people I can trust who have walked alongside me and helped shape me into who I am. And so it's something really near and dear to my heart. So a little bit of background. During our last accreditation process, mentoring was one of the areas that was identified as something we could improve on. And so when Dr. Settles first approached me about kind of morphing into this role, it was really exciting, but we didn't have a lot going on. Some of the things that we had really focused on for a while, as the district expanded, your focus shifts a little bit, and things had just kind of settled in. People couldn't really articulate what we offered as support. And so we began that first year. I said, what could we do right now, right away? And so that was a monthly resource. That was something we felt really strongly we could get out to people. We offered 5 paid hours. So in August, we would invite mentors to come in. They would get 1 hour of kind of here's what you can expect this year. Here's what we're asking of you. Good luck. And then they would go spend 4 hours in the building with their mentee, kind of getting to know them and helping them with whatever was needed in those very first days back to school. And then with the advent of the PD mentoring credits, that became kind of my avenue as something to kind of play with and try to get a scope and sequence developed. Like, what could I start to roll out that would make sense, that people could follow, that would be actual support? And so we started using the mentoring PD credits, our professional learning credits, as an opportunity to get information to people at a more chunked pace throughout the year. 12 people took us up on that in year one. And so we started with a very small group of our mentors actually taking that on. Simultaneously, our strategic goals were developed, and out of that came number 3, and specifically emphasizing the importance and impact of positive professional relationships. We thought if that is coming out of this goal, that really is something that needs some attention, and we need to make sure that we are providing that for people. And at the same time, Dr. Settles served on a group of administrators from across the nation who kind of did some research into recruitment and retention. We have a problem where people aren't staying or aren't coming into the field. We haven't felt it as deeply, but certainly we are beginning to feel some of those effects. And so what is it that makes people want to come to you and want to stay with you? And that was really teacher identity. And part of what makes a teacher's identity is their belief that they can make a difference and their vision for who they are as a teacher and who they want to be. And to meet the vision that you have for yourself, you have to have some skill to go with that. And so you need someone supporting you and challenging you along the way. So we wanted to really layer all of these pieces into a program that could be sustainable. I thought this was very interesting. It came out of the research from ASPA. 9 out of 10 people willing to trade a percentage of their earnings for meaning at work. And that really struck me. I don't think that that means that anyone is saying, oh, please, don't pay us. But it is saying, certainly, that I want to come for more than that. I want to come to make a difference for kids, yes. But I think there's a bigger picture, and that is I want to enjoy the people that I work with. I want to walk into a space where I trust the person next to me, that they have my best interest, and that they want the best for me. So we really wanted to make sure that people felt that in Papillion. So we came up with a goal to increase accessibility, visibility, and accountability within the mentoring program. And we did that through increased professional learning opportunities, increasing their responsibility, but with that increasing compensation and recognition. So today, our mentoring program is a little bit more robust than what it started with 5 years ago. Now we require and pay mentors for 3 professional learning opportunities. Those happen in August, September, and October, and the rationale is that if I can access them early and provide this information and kind of do a check-in, we're more likely to see them utilizing the strategies. We're more likely that they're meeting with their mentee and developing that relationship early in the year so that we can carry it throughout the year. Then we have an opportunity for 3 optional, but very highly encouraged professional learning credits in November, January, and March. And we're following, and I'll get to that in a moment, kind of a scope and sequence that we've developed, a curriculum, if you will, based on some big pillars of research. Our other goals were to collect data from both the mentor and the mentee, and we do ask for names. And that can be a little bit disarming sometimes, but we want to try to match up. If a mentee says, I haven't received support, and a mentor is saying, oh no, I meet with them every single day, we have a disconnect, and we want to make sure that that's not happening. And happily, our data aligned very, very well, that they considered that they were meeting about the right amount. Both felt that that was pretty consistent. We also ask for programmatic feedback. So basically, it's how am I doing? Is the material that you're getting in the moment, is it useful? Is it making a difference? And so they give feedback on all of those pieces as well. And then celebrating the importance of mentoring is a very important component that we have in place. We have partnerships to provide some swag, if you will, and make sure that there are treats available. A lot of these professional learning times are after school and off contract time. They need to be for the professional learning part. So we want to make sure that, again, they're coming in and they're getting this knowledge, but we want them to want to be there and feel like we value their time. And so we do also, we tried last year to have communications department feature mentoring as a program, and so you'll get to see a little clip of that in a moment. And then Katie one of her best gifts is just recognizing people and valuing them and celebrating them. And so it's not my work, it was her my mentor-mentee recognition to make sure that we're going out into schools. Principals are now nominating partnerships that are working well. So not just a great mentor or a great brand new staff member, but when they are working well together, we go out and celebrate them. So I have a handout for each of you that allows, because you cannot read it on this screen, but it just goes through the month by month. This is what our curriculum looks like. It's based off of some work, original work by Ellen Moore, who studied first-year teachers. Since then, it's been adapted in multiple groups to say it's not just first-year teachers, it's the first year you do anything new. You go through a cycle where you kind of start out really strong and you hit a little dip where maybe you second-guess everything you ever knew, and then you kind of come out of that in a reflection piece. And so this follows that program, as well as Tina Bugren's work in just supporting beginning teachers. So it goes through, again, that progression that people go through. So a little bit of data for you. The last 2 years have been what I would consider mentoring at a programmatic level, like where it is in a space where I think it could be sustained and implemented, where we have it in a place that's working, and we just need to refine. So last year, I was able to go and do 5 personal consultations. What that means is if a mentor says to me, you know what, I've hit a tough spot where I don't know how to break through with this staff member, or I need to have a hard conversation and I don't know how to do it artfully, I can go meet with them, we can practice, we can get some more tools in their hands. And that was utilized 5 times last year. We had 97 mentors, and the 3 required trainings, you can see we had 100%, 84%, and 77% attendance at those. On the surveys that we gave, over half of our mentors responded, and more than half of our new staff responded, which was exciting. And then 64 participants. The November is the 17, January was 23, and March was 24 people who chose to participate to continue their learning. This year so far, we've had 2 personal consultations. We have 93 mentors, and we have we just wrapped up our October training, and you notice that the percentages are higher. And I put that into, 1, people understand the importance more than they did of the work that they're doing. They're starting to recognize the difference that it's making. 2, principals are making a lot more, like they're being a little bit more judicious when they're choosing who is going to be a mentor. And 3, we have a plan now for if you don't come. And so as you layer on some of those things and increase that accountability, people start to recognize that. So we've had a really successful fall so far, and we already have 27 signed up for PD moving forward. So we're really excited about that, knowing that those are just our early birds. Some will come with the reminders that come closer to time. So just a few of the celebrations and recognitions at the top is kind of what happens for the My Oh My. Once a group has been nominated, Dr. Settles and some other people, depending on who knows the people being recognized, will go out to the building and they will honor both of them. The last one was at Monarch, and we have one coming up on Wednesday, which will be a surprise. And then a portion of our EHA Wellness Grant, I'm also, other duties is assigned. I work on that with Andrew Bell. And so we have some grant money that we have written to work for staff wellness. And we thought, what better place than supporting people who are supporting people. And so we try to do little treats and gratitudes each time that they come with us. And this is a portion of just what other people have to say about that communications did.
I have been teaching in the district for 17 years, and I just feel so fortunate that our district builds our capacity in so many ways. With people in our building that check in on us, we get the PD credits, but I think right now, this program that we have to not only build our capacity as mentors, but also ways that we can make people excited to teach and to stay teaching, because that's what we want. We want them to be able to have all of the tools that they need in order to feel success every single day.
The mentorship program gives them a friendly face and a connection right away. They start to feel grounded in what they're doing, and then they can form more connections, and then also be able to feel a little bit more confident for walking into a classroom with brand new students, brand new families, and then that connection becomes contagious over time. I still remember some of my very first mentors when I started in the district about 26 years ago, and just thinking about things that they taught me that I still can lean on today, and just that positive outlook on things that come our way each and every day as educators.
I have loved the trainings we've had so far. Every time I go away, I leave inspired. I feel that not only are things that I can help my mentee with, but also just ways that kind of fill my bucket and recharge me and re-energize me as a teacher, because, you know, our job is to make sure everybody else is doing okay, but, you know, we need our bucket filled and we need to make sure that, you know, we're doing okay too. So every time I leave, I feel like I went to a TED Talk, and I feel like they have just given me lots of ways to just look at teaching through a different lens, because sometimes we get so focused on what our job is and maybe the little ways we can help, but seeing teaching as the big picture and kind of reminding us of our why so that we can inspire others.
So Chantel Green in Communications does wonderful work, and she put that together for us last year. That's just a snippet of it. I was like, you can cut it down for this. So she helped with that. So you would notice in the video too, there was another presenter with me. Mike Klug is our HAL facilitator here in the district, but he has over 30 years of mentoring experience through the YMCA, and so I thought, what better person to partner with to kind of process through some of the challenges that we see. So he's also a very amazing presenter, really charismatic, and so he balances out my research flat tone and gets people very engaged. So we're a good partner for that. Ongoing improvements, things we're still working on this year. We're trying to differentiate a little bit. Originally, we anticipated it would be secondary and elementary, and that is not at all what the data is telling us. They actually want it differentiated by different content areas. And so we have Katie Lesage helping create specific lists for special education. Hollander Hoda is helping us develop some nursing, like what are the must-haves at certain times of the year. And then we're working with the Mental Health Collaborative, and those team members are developing it as we go. So those are kind of neat ways that we're starting to branch out, and eventually we'll have every position will have their own set. We want different options for mentors with experience versus brand new mentors, because once you have a guaranteed curriculum, it's good, but if you're doing the same thing each year, that gets old. Now the people that you're working with present new challenges, and so we know that the job is never the same, but sometimes the content is, and so we want to try to provide some more varied modes for them. An increased focus on new to PLCS versus new to teaching. That seems to be really the area that we're seeing more experienced staff members come to us, and that's hard for a mentor. We have one this year who student taught with the person she is now mentoring. So, and they've left the district for a number of years, have come back, and now she's their mentor. So that presents its own challenges. And then increasing awareness. So we're really trying to help administrators to be able to articulate what it is that we provide. Obviously, we want our new staff to know how they can be supported, and then the mentors themselves. So that is part of our telling the story. Any questions for me?
I appreciate the overview. Thanks for putting it all together. It sounds like a great program. One question I do have is, do you have different content, or do the mentors handle people that are new to the profession, like right out of college, new to the profession, versus those that are coming in, they've got 20 years education experience and they're just coming to the district for the first time? Can you talk through kind of the differences between those two groups?
Absolutely. So what we know is that everybody kind of goes through that first phase of new. They start out really excited and they have these really high expectations, and then they get kind of in the task of it. It's like, I'm surviving, I'm getting through. And then they hit this area of disillusionment. And the definition of that is when I expected one thing, but my reality is something else. And so what we're trying to guide them through is when someone comes to us with experience, they may have selected Papillion based on a notion that they had that it would be different than something they experienced, or maybe there will be no behaviors here, or maybe it will be, this is the support, or sometimes people are shocked by the amount of collaboration that we require. And so really it's us as the trainers trying to know the situation and help them to navigate with that person. What is the thing that's causing that disconnect, and how can we help them? The cycle is the same. The way that we communicate with people, we can always dive deeper into our communication styles, and that's really what we focus on, is the art of communicating in these different cycles. And then we try to tailor that. But that is an area that we want to get even better at, because we're hearing it hearing it more, that that's the reality, that we have a lot of people with experience. And so we've been trying to come up with really clear examples and incorporate that in. But in the future, that might be something, depending on what this year's data tells us and who we're hiring for next year, that may be a completely separate track. So we'll see how it goes.
I appreciate it.
You mentioned, I think you mentioned that principals nominate who will be mentors. Do you have, I hate to call them minimum criteria, but
Yes.
number of years or experience or anything like
Yeah,
that?
it's not so much years in experience, but we do have the skills, qualities, and characteristics. One, we want you to have some expertise in what you're doing, but sometimes the very best classroom teacher won't necessarily make the very best mentor, because it's someone who is really willing to take the time, who can break down their practice, who's going to walk alongside with you and get messy in some of that. Sometimes amazing teachers, they just do it. And when you say, how did you do that? They go, I just did it. And so it's somebody who can really break down and articulate and notice all those little steps and be the most active listener to say, this is where you're at and this is how I'm going to respond. Yeah.
Rachel, this was really good, and we've long talked in this board and this district about the importance of teacher retention. I think the last time I saw the national statistics, something approaching 50% of all teachers leave the profession within the first 5 to 7 years. We know that's a growing challenge. We also know that when teachers leave the profession, very frequently, one of the most cited concerns is lack of support. Pay, of course, always comes up, but lack of support is very frequently a top 3 reason for teachers leaving the profession. Mentoring is clearly a way of addressing that support or lack thereof. So as you meet with mentors and mentees, what are they saying? I mean, how much is this addressing that gap of, I don't feel supported? Can you kind of share what types of anecdotes that you're hearing, what types of evidence that we have that this is working?
You know, I hear 2 different things. One, I don't hear a ton right now of like, I don't feel supported. That usually comes later after a decision point. Typically, we try to be proactive, and one of the things we're working on is getting that information more quickly. So I do have people fill out like information of like, hey, is there anything that's like causing you concern or that you're hearing kind of on loop? We do train for listen-fors to try to get that proactively, because what we know is that they don't actually usually not have support. It's that it doesn't feel like support. It's not the right support at the right time. And so we want to make sure that they know all of the layers that we have to offer. Much like our professional learning credits have put it in 3 buckets, district level, building level, individual level. We've tried to think of it that way with mentoring too. We have district level supports and we try to articulate those. We have building level supports. We have an amazing opportunity for instructional coaches at every elementary school. We have department leads at our secondaries. We have a lot of layers, and then at that individual level is mentoring. And so we just want to make sure that they know it's not just one person that carries that load. It's how can we structure a system that really like doesn't have a gap. If I don't get along with the mentor, guess what? You get a new one. Like, we're gonna figure this out, and you're still gonna get a coach, and you're still gonna have, you know, this principal who's gonna be meeting with you. And we wanna make sure that we identify all of those supports as clearly as we can, which is part of the goal. Yeah. We're not at 50%, by the way. We're much higher.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Settles, anything to add? No? No? All right, well, thank you, Rachel, I appreciate it. Okay, moving on to section 5, future board calendar. October 29th, 2024, liaison lunch at La Vista West with at 11:15 with Mr. Bailey. October 30th, 2024, liaison lunch at Papillion Middle School at noon with Miss Witt. November 1st, 2024, no school for elementary staff development day, day after Halloween. November 5th, 2024, liaison lunch at G. Stanley Hall at 11:40 with Mr. Lotus. And November 11th, 2024, the next Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. here at Central Office. Seeing no further business in front of this board, I adjourn the meeting at 6:58. Thank you.